Okay, now I'm going to introduce you to our second speaker for today. Our second speaker today is Stephanie Dower. Stephanie is a recognized and in-demand arts producer, writer, and editor. She's also the creative mind behind Dower Productions. Her work and passion is built around a strong commitment to promoting disability inclusion, both on screen and behind the scenes. Stephanie has worked across short films, TV, and online content, and she's currently developing a slate of bold and aspirational video projects. She's also the recipient of a number of production prizes and accolades, is a co-host of Attitude Foundation's Reframing podcast, and sought after speaker on accessibility and inclusion. Stephanie's also recovering from RSV, so bear with her if she struggles with her voice today. So, welcome, Stephanie. It's so wonderful to have you join us today.
Thank you, Jeremy, and thank you for the heads up. Yes, I apologize if I disappear suddenly. Don't take it as offense, please. No, it's really lovely to be here with you all today. It's always nice to be in a room, whether it's real or virtual, to be in a room of like-minded people that have a shared experience. So I'm grateful to be here with you all. I guess, just going back to my story and how I've gotten to where I am in my career, I guess I've always had a love of story, echoing what Dinesh said. Story plays such a vital role in all aspects of our lives. It's not just the creative industries. It's such a story, is such a powerful tool. But we start with story on screen. We watch TV, we watch movies. Nowadays, we watch online content as well, and it can give you a sense of a world bigger than yourself. It helps to inform how you perceive the world around you, how you interact with the world around you, which again, it just feeds into why story is such a powerful tool. So yes, I've always had an affinity with this. I was very grateful that I went to a high school where I had really great supportive teachers, and the school offered film and TV subject as a subject. So I did that. I then went on to university and did my undergrad in film and TV there. I will say I always did keep limiting myself or thinking I wouldn't be able to sort of do what I wanted in this career path because, I can't necessarily be on set for 15 hours a day. I can't hold a camera. I can't do this, can't do that. But I remember there was a university lecturer, sort of explaining some of my concerns, to him. And, he's like, why aren't you doing like the full degree at this stage? I was doing a general arts degree. And he's like, why aren't you doing like the film and TV degree then? And I was like, oh, I can't do this and I wouldn't be able to do this and blah, blah. And he's like, yeah, but like the industry's so much bigger than that. I mean, if anyone's ever sat at the end of a movie and watched all of the credits roll, like that's literally hundreds of people that put that together and they're all doing different roles. And so I guess just having someone else say that, why not? It sort of makes you double, sort of second guess yourself, be like, oh yeah, why am I thinking this way? Why am I limiting myself? Internalized ableism is something I've definitely struggled with over my time. But yeah, anyway, so I went in, I did that as my university studies, and I started off in post-production, which is editing. That to me seemed like the most accessible pathway for me. It was computer-based work. I'm very comfortable sitting at a computer. Generally, you're indoors and all of this. So to me, it seemed like the best way pathway for me to work in the industry I wanted to work in. But I started getting to a point, and whilst I love that work and it's such crucial work, I always say if I ever worked with directors, I can always tell who's been an editor or had experience editing because it just they can piece the if anyone has experience editing, they can piece the puzzle together in their head so much easier, which is invaluable. Um, anyway, that's a tangent right there. But I was starting to get to a point where I was mindful that I wanted to have a bit more say, a bit more control over what I was putting out into the world, what projects I was working on, what were they saying? Because again, going back to what I was saying and what Dinesh was saying about story being such a powerful tool, I wanted to be putting stories out there that help to reframe how society, audiences saw people with disability. I grew up not seeing very many characters or people that were wheelchair users or had any sort of disability. And I strongly believe that fed into the internalized ableism because if you don't see yourself reflected out in society on in stories and that it can feel very isolating and you can kind of go around thinking, am I the only one that is experiencing this? I know my mum and I in our household, I wanted to go to university. I wanted to have a career. I wanted to do this. I wanted to do that. And, we kept saying to each other, like, I can't be the first one. But like when you don't have exposure to other people's stories and other people that are in similar circumstances to yourself doing the things that you want to be doing, it does feel like you're the only one. Um, so anyway, so I actually went back to university. I stepped away from post-production, went back to university and sort of redirected my career into as a producer. So producer's the one who basically makes it all happen. We're the ones who identify the stories. We're the ones who bring all the pieces together, the money, the creative people, director, the crew, all of that kind of stuff. So this way, with Dower Productions, my company, I'm able to put projects out into the world that I think need to be told, that haven't been told before from perspectives that we haven't heard from before. Because, if I always think to myself, like, if I'm looking for something out there that isn't out there, then other people have to be looking for that as well. So that's what I'm trying to do with Dow Productions. So I guess advocacy wise, I'm pushing things out from a production perspective, but I'm also working most recently as an access coordinator or accessibility coordinator, which is a pretty new role in our film and TV industry. The UK has been doing it for about 5 or so years now. But what it is we're essentially hired by a producer or a production team to work with them in making sure their sets, the way they work, the way they go into production is accessible and can meet accessibility requirements. So, for example, if they have any cast, if they have any actors in that have accessibility requirements, we can work one-on-one with them. We can have a discussion. We all have lived experience as access coordinators, so we can create that safe space for them to discuss their own access requirements. And then, with their permission, we can take necessary information to the production team and work with the production team, guiding them on how we can create accessibility, meet these accessibility requirements. Really taking the burden of disclosure and trying to come up with their own solutions off the individuals. Because if you're hired to be a crew member or a cast member, you're there to do your job. You don't want to have to be educating the production team while you're at it. You don't have to advocate for yourself the whole time. I know we've all done it and like that's out of necessity, but if we can take that, we can remove that and create value in um, having us as a resource for both the individual and the production team, then hopefully we're just opening doors for more people to come into the industry and just make it a safer, more comfortable place for everyone to come and work in. So, um, I guess that's kind of my very yeah, expensive story in a nutshell. I've been very lucky to work on many different projects outside of my own like production work as well. As Jerry mentioned, I co-host Reframed for Attitude Foundation. We actually had Dinesh on as one of our guests on that, where we analyze the portrayal of disability in film and TV. And yeah, just, representation is so important. What we're putting out into the world, it really informs how we see each other, how we work with each other, how we perceive each other. So the more authentic representations we can put out there, the more diverse representations we can put out there, I think is going to impact society always for the better. So yeah, I hope that gives you a little glimpse into my pathway and where I'm at today. So yeah, thank
All
you.
right, thank you.